Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and on this show, ambitious women learn how to create a life they're obsessed with, without the hustle, without the grind, without torturing ourselves, and without following anybody else's rules. This podcast is all about creating our own rules, owning our identity as creator, and hitting every single goal we set for ourselves. Together, we're redefining success on our terms and building lives that look as good as they feel. Let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back, where I'm really excited to have a conversation with a new friend, Lacey Brutschy. And it's really funny. When I asked her how to pronounce her last name to do it clearly, she was like, phonetically, this is what it sounds like, if that's any indication of how today's conversation is going to go. Because I was like, I don't know what that means, Lacey. Can you just tell me how to pronounce her name? But Lacey is a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She is just a total rock star who, during COVID, was like, I got to figure out this TikTok algorithm, and grew an audience to like 100,000 followers. It's completely changed her real estate business, and she's just an all-around awesome human. So, Lacey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I always like to start with people's stories, right? So wherever you feel inclined to kind of hop in and tell your story of like who you are today and how you got here and the amazing things you do.
Sure, totally. I am from Hilton Head, South Carolina originally, which is a little beach town over off the coast of South Carolina. Can't play golf for the lick of me, but that's what we're really known for. Used to play tennis. God took that skill away from me pretty quickly. But I grew up there. I went to high school there, and then I came over to Dallas, went to Southern Methodist University, stayed there for 4 years, went back home because I graduated in 2009, and that was a great time.
Right. Like, I don't know what's better, because I graduated in 2004, should have been the class of 05. I graduated early. So like I was only just a couple years into my career when things fell apart. You were just starting one. It was a shit show either way.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So I ended up moving back home in 2010 to go work for a property management company and a commercial real estate company. I did that for 2 years, and then kind of decided that I wanted to be back in the city of Dallas. So I moved back to Dallas, and that was around 2012. And so when that was going on, it was still really an investor's market. So I really dove deep into the investor side of things.
And then how did your career play out? Because, you were, the way you've kind of explained it to me when we were talking about this, is you were average above average, but like you were not like the number, how everybody got. I kind of make fun of real estate agents sometimes when they're like, I'm the top, this, that, this, and this on this list that I started my career selling radio advertising, and the radio ratings are on a tool called the Arbitron, right? And it was like the ratings, and I forget the number. It's like 232. There's 232 different ways to be number one on the Arbitron, right? Like the way they pull the data. That's how I feel about real estate rankings. 32 is for you to be in the top 5% in Dallas-Fort Worth. But like your career was pretty status quo, right? Like for a while.
Yeah, totally. I did probably $60,000 to $80,000 a year. I mean, nothing crazy. That was my GCI. And it was really because I just needed that much money to like survive and live. I mean, I didn't really care about anything else.
Yeah.
All of that didn't really change until probably the year before I met my wife. I decided I was going to start working a little bit harder. But that came with like a whole other level of hardships that I'm sure that we'll dive into.
Yeah.
But that first year, I think I did 160 GCI. And then after that, it's been growing steadily for the last 4 years. And last year it was like $535,000 in GCI. So right around $22 million. But it's mainly like, I'm a transaction gal. So I do like 40 to 45 a year.
I think that's amazing. I want to tell the story about when you met your wife, because when Lacey and I first connected, we met through Courtney Benson, who you all know and love. I've interviewed her on the show. We met at the talk that Courtney did when she did her big book launch. And Lacey's just personality is larger than life. So I was like, I want to have you on the show. Like, I think you're really great. And so we got on the phone. I was like, tell me your story. And she's like, yeah, it was when I met my wife, and I all of a sudden decided I needed to start taking myself seriously. I think that was like almost verbatim what you said to me. And that's so unusual, because a lot of the people that I work with all take ourselves way too seriously, right? Like way, way too seriously. And you were just like, yeah, I need $60,000 to $80,000 a year to survive, and I'm doing that. But it was really that spark of, I want to be and create a life with this person. And so this is how I'm going to step into that. So will you share that story? Because it's just so different than what I'm used to hearing. And I think it's really cool.
Totally. So both she and I, we both thought that we were going to Clooney it. Really, really glad I didn't now that I'm looking back at it, but we both really thought that we were going to Clooney this. And so I met her in New York City. We met on Bumble. And it was during my best friend in the world, like my brother. He was undergoing really intensive stem cell therapy for chemo. I'd been flying up there maybe once a month to go be with him. He wasn't allowed to be alone at the time whenever he's going through that because he might have had seizures and passed away. So I would be there making sure he was okay if his husband wasn't there. And the last day I was there, I was with him and then my two best girlfriends. And one is straight, one is gay. They were both at our wedding. And they looked at me and they're like, you know what? Lacey hasn't been having any fun this year. We want Lacey to have some fun. We're going to set her up on a dating app. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. I'm here because you're going through chemo. Right. I'm not here to go on a date. Like at all. And they were pretty adamant. Ricky really wanted me to go up and have a good time because it was going to be his last treatment. So they knew that he was going to be better. And I went, I don't think I told you this, but my girlfriends ended up doing a screen share of Bumble on the television of my friend's apartment. So we're swiping through girls while we're looking. And Sarah was the first girl who wrote me back. Obviously there were several, but Sarah was the first one that wrote me back. And she asked me what my favorite quote was. And I thought that was so lame. I thought it was super lame. So I was like, what do I've got to lose? Like, I live in Texas, who cares? And I gave her like a Mussolini quote, just to see what she would say. Like, can we play ball? Like, will we have a good time? Or are you taking yourself too seriously? She wrote me back a couple minutes later saying that was the funniest thing I've ever heard on this app. You have to meet me for dinner. Come by my place. And I was like, great. And we went on that date. Went on a date the next day, went on a date the next day, went on a date the next day. I think we said I love you within 2 weeks. Like, I knew that she was going to be my wife after like the first 3 days.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And so what changed for you then professionally? You were like, okay, cool. Was it what she wanted, what she expected, with the life you guys wanted together? Or was it just all of a sudden like oh shit, I gotta like adult for real, not just like survive?
Yeah, I thought all of a sudden I had something that was bigger than myself that I needed to really pay attention to. And the reason that I left South Carolina originally to go back to Dallas was because I knew I wasn't going to find like a relationship or a partner or a wife in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I was just like so convinced of that. And I don't really consider a life worth living if you don't have it with someone else to live with and like celebrate your wins and mourn your losses and just like be there. I feel like life is just so much more fun and desirable to like enjoy whenever you're with someone who you really care about. And so when Sarah and I got together, I was just like, oh man, all right. It was before COVID. I knew that I was going to marry her. I also knew that I would probably have to pay for the wedding ring and everything. And I was like, okay, let's get to work.
Yeah.
Sarah was someone who I was always looking for. I love the fact that she's super motivated and driven, and I wanted to be just as motivated and driven for us and for the life that we just kind of like wanted to build together.
Sure. I love that so much. So then, but at this point in time, you're still doing okay at real estate, right? Like you had shared with me, you became like, you studied marketing and all the things, like you followed the rules, right? Like you followed the rules very clearly and you were doing okay. And then COVID happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. COVID happened, shut everything down.
Right.
And I was talking to Ricky, my friend that had cancer, and we were kind of FaceTiming. And I was FaceTiming with him and his husband, and I was with Sarah. And I go, what are you doing today? And he was like, honestly, he's like, I'm probably just going to take an Adderall and figure out TikTok. And I was like, why are you figuring out TikTok? I was like, that's for kids who dance. He's like, no, TikTok's cool now. Just like hop on it, do whatever you want. And sometimes I feel like Ricky is kind of God's voice that talks through another vessel to get to me.
Yeah.
And it sounds so odd to talk about that for a social media platform, but I just kind of popped on it really quick and I was like, oh, okay, there's a huge market gap here. Like, it looks like what's doing well on TikTok are hot gals dancing, hot boys dancing, education, and humor. And I was like, I can't be the first two, but I think I got education and humor down. I can nail that. I can nail that, no problem. I'll be a 7 turns into a 12 real quick. Don't worry about it. So like I sit down and I learned the algorithm after like 3 or 4 days of just studying the algorithm on TikTok. And then my third video hit like 75,000 people. And I just started from there. And then I closed my first deal within, I want to say 3 months of doing TikTok. And pretty consistently, I've closed like 12 to $15 million per year just from TikTok.
I love this story for so many reasons. One, I love that you studied it because like my brain is the exact opposite. I would like to study nothing. I'm the fuck around and find out, right? Like that's kind of my MO. Like I'm just going to say obnoxious shit on the internet and see who likes it. And it's worked out okay for me so far. But what I like about that was like, because you told me there were people who were kind of like, meh, like, is that where you want to be? Didn't people kind of give you shit about it? And you were like,
a little bit.
Like, but like your peers, not so much your friends, right? But other people in real estate were like, what the fuck are you doing on TikTok?
Well, yeah, totally. There would be a lot of, and there still are, there's a lot of misconceptions about who's on TikTok and why. But a lot of people would just say that I would never be an influencer. And the goal was never to be an influencer. The goal was to get leads from people calling you. I don't care that I have like, it's whatever. It's cool that I have 100,000 followers, I guess.
Sure.
But like, I really don't care. I care whether or not people are picking up the phone to call me.
And do you know what a shift that is? Because I used to chase the numbers because I started selling, I told you, I started selling radio advertising, right? Numbers and audience size were a big deal. Yeah. That's what I believe to be true. And when I stopped obsessing over how many followers I had and how many people were booking sales calls on my calendar and started looking at content creation through that lens is when TikTok finally started to work for me. I had gotten all my clients primarily from Facebook. Like I had a big Facebook group. I had 7,000 people in a Facebook group back in 2020 and all the things, right? And so when I moved to TikTok, I thought it was, vanity metrics. But then I was like, I don't actually care how many people follow me. I care how many people buy from me. And I don't mean that in a callous way, right? I'm not saying like, fuck all the other people. I'm just saying like, that's not a metric I can focus on, right? Like, right. It will drive you crazy. You will always be chasing something if you're chasing a follower count versus really intentionally focusing on how is this serving me, my business, my community in all these different ways. And that's just been such a game changer for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
So now like your business is thriving. You and Sarah, you got married, you're living your dream life in Dallas and all the things. Yeah. Tell us like present day, here we are. You became TikTok famous on accident. Grew your business in that way.
Yeah.
Met this incredible human and now you guys are, how'd you talk her into moving to Dallas from New York?
I told her that Texas didn't have state income tax.
So sexy.
So like, you know what I mean? I respect it. And it was during, COVID we were locking down.
Right.
And she was in Brooklyn and Crown Heights. She lived right next, like, I'm not being facetious. I mean, right next to a methadone clinic. And I was like, what do you think is going to start happening when the methadone isn't getting distributed? Like, where do you think we're going to be going? So then I told her that Texas didn't have a state income tax, and she was like, great, I'll fly down. I thought she was going to stay a little bit longer than what she thought she was going to stay down. So she flew down with a backpack. And after about 3 weeks, I was like, so are you thinking that maybe we should go to Target and get some more clothes? And she was like, yeah, I think we do need to go to Target and get more clothes. Great. Yeah.
So cool. One of the things I love to tell when I tell stories is I believe that when we watch people on the internet in particular who appear to be wildly successful, like you do, somebody just came across your TikTok profile with having never met you or having any presence, they're like, this person is kicking ass and taking names, right? And so we make an assumption, Lacey, that they don't have challenges, they don't have struggles, they don't have insecurities, they don't have bullshit. And you and I both know that's not true, right? And so, through all of this, you're dealing with your friend with cancer, right? Like you're tackling a new relationship, you're tackling all the different things. Like, how do you stay mentally focused and resilient with all the shit going on in the world?
Well, the interesting thing about when I met my wife and when I was flying up for Ricky's chemo, he was in New York, so we would fly up to Sloan Kettering all the time. We're constantly at Sloan. And when I was there, I couldn't really work. So I would have to take like 7 days off every 30 to 45 days. And it's really hard to do in real estate. At the same time, I was doing some project development with a general contractor who dipped. And so we had already given him all of the money. I had raised capital with investors who trusted me, and I couldn't let it go down. So I took all of the money that I made for about 10 months to a year and shoved it over towards this build. And Sarah met me when I was just broke. Broke. When I would fly up to go visit her, I would take the bus over to her house because I couldn't pay for any like Ubers or anything
Sure.
like
Yeah.
that. So it was kind of a kill or be killed kind of mentality. And I just knew that, like, I knew I was supposed to marry this person. I knew my life was supposed to be bigger than what it was currently. I knew that my friend was going to get better, and I knew that I was going to be able to, like, get out from the rocks and the rubble from that terrible build project. Through it all, like, I developed really good friendships with people who we still build together. We just don't hire the same general contractor that we did that year. Expensive lessons, but
Sure.
the idea is that when all chips are down on the table, you're either going to jump all in or you're going to freak out and cut bait. So at the time, I had applied to SMU's business school. I had gotten in. I was starting to attend their pre-fall registration classes, and then I started doing really well on TikTok. And I was ready to go. I was ready to go join, like, very literally, I said I would go join Goldman Sachs. I would be a DEI hire. I wouldn't be very good at the job. I wouldn't be very fast, but they would get a lesbian who can moonlight as a Republican. So, like, whatever, right? Like, that's just what we'll do. I'll make 80K
Yeah.
a year. It doesn't matter. It's fine. And then when TikTok came into my life, I was able to just cut that completely and do only real estate after that.
I think that's incredible because how many times do we hear that, right? The people who are like, I was prepared to go take plan B. Like when I went through all my shit back in 21 and 22, which I share really openly on the podcast, like I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go get a job, right? I'll probably make more money and it will be much less stressful. And all of this shit will be somebody else's problem, you know? Like I had those moments where I was like, I'm just gonna take my toys and go home. And I'm so glad I didn't, right? But like, you know, sometimes when your back's against the wall, you just figure shit out and you just get creative and all of those different things. Cause you could have made all of that mean something about yourself, right? With the deal going sideways and all of that, right? It could have been like, fuck it, I'm out. And you know, I'm sure people do that every single day.
Sure,
You
totally.
know, every single day. But like you said, last year was what, $500,000 year, you know, in really just you owning who you are. You show up on social media and you show people who Lacey is and you have fun and you network and you build really great relationships and you crush it.
Yeah.
Like
that's
but you know, we want to make it so hard. We're like, I got to jump through this hoop and this hoop and this hoop and this hoop and this hoop. And you're like, no, just the more me I am, the more successful I am.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even have a ring light or a microphone until probably this past January.
So funny.
And it's March. I mean, like,
right.
Everything that I shot was just like on the fly. I might have been wearing earbuds, but that was really it.
Sure. And I think that's like sometimes we just try too hard. Right? Like I think sometimes that is the issue that we have is we try too hard. I saw this other influencer. This is what they were doing. And I'm with you. I don't like the word influencer. I have zero desire to be an influencer in the term of an influencer, right? Like I desire to build community and connection with people that need to hear my message, but not in like, I'm going to sell you some mascara and skincare because I have a big audience influencer, right? Like that's not where we're going with this. At least not, you never say never, right? But anyway, we like to make it really hard and really, really complicated. And it feels like you just simplifies the shit out of things. And that's when things blew up for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I just decided that I had tried every other platform. I tried YouTube, I tried Facebook, I tried Instagram, I tried mailers, I tried like block walking, I tried door knocking, I tried everything.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, this is just like the last ditch effort and it's free. So I'm going to do that during COVID because who knows what we're going to find and what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So I just kind of like threw myself out there and studied the algorithm so that way I could play with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And once I figured out the algorithm, it made it really easy for me to just kind of hop on the train and get the phone rolling.
Yeah. And something else that you told me when we had chatted is you didn't really start exploring other platforms until there was real risk of TikTok being banned. And the reason why I want to talk about that, but the reason why I think that's important is because, again, sometimes we think more is more, right? So we're like, okay, well, there's leads coming in on TikTok. Now I need to go to Instagram. Now I need to go to YouTube. Now I need to go to Facebook. And you just stayed put and owned your space until you felt like, hey, it would be irresponsible for me to not look at other options. And so you want to tell us about that? Like, what was kind of that process when you for real thought there was a possibility TikTok would go away? What did you do?
In September of 20, no, maybe August of 24, I hired a virtual assistant to help me do Facebook and Instagram. So that way I started doing new videos for that. I started doing new videos for YouTube, and I still kept with TikTok because all those platforms like different things and different styles. So I had to play with the styling, but thankfully I was able to expand to someone who understood editing, understood my marketing style, understood how to make thumbnails, and she was who I kind of gave all of the content to, and she ran with it. She's phenomenal.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
so now so now are you creating for all the platforms?
No.
Okay.
I still do TikTok, and then I do Facebook and Instagram. YouTube is just not my space. I can't get on it, you know?
I want to love it so bad because it makes so much sense. You know,
Yeah.
they relatively stay out of the news, just search-based platform. They don't do crazy shit. It's pretty easy to monetize, you know, like there's all these boxes in the YouTube like column that make a lot of sense, but I feel that same way. Like I have tried no less than half a dozen times. Like I'm going to create over here and then I'm like, I don't really like it over here. You guys suck. I feel like I'm like yelling into an echo chamber.
Yeah, I'm just yelling into a void, and I really don't care for that. I don't feel like there's a sense of community, but also I
Right.
think I probably feel that because I'm getting on this platform, 15 years after it got created?
Sure.
I mean, there's not a market gap there for me. If
Sure.
I go on TikTok, that's where I do really well because
Yeah.
I haven't seen another real estate agent who educates the public the same
Yeah.
way that I do. So
Sure.
it's a different value proposition.
Totally. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think again, that's the blessing of this is there's no other Lacey, right? Again, oftentimes and I see this a lot with real estate agents. And again, sorry guys for all the shade. Lacey likes my real estate shade. But like I now have a very large connections with real estate agents on Facebook because of my relationship with Courtney and different things like that. And I love it, right? Like I love Facebook. It's always been my heart. I've made a shit ton of money on Facebook. So I rarely throw shade at Facebook, but I scroll through and it's like, I don't care what market you're in or what you're doing. It all fucking looks the same, right? Like if
It all
one
looks the
more
same.
like under contract with a photo of a house and a key, like stop it. You know,
Right.
that's not interesting or engaging. And nobody's doing it on purpose. They're just watching other people and they're like, oh, this is what I should do.
Hmm.
Right? Like I should do this because this is what other people are doing. And what you just said was, no, I do things completely differently than the way other people do things.
Yeah, because or else there's not a market gap. There's no reason for someone to go to you over somebody else.
Yeah. And we don't ever think of that. We're like, oh, this is what all the other real estate agents are doing. I'm doing this, right? So I think it's a combination of things, right? Like you have your own style. You own your shit. Like you very much, again, the conversation we're having right now, you have a beer with Lacey in person or you follow her on TikTok, you are getting the same human, right? Like there is no, and that to me was one of the biggest compliments when I finally got out from behind my computer because my business grew a lot during COVID. Well, I had a baby and Georgia was an infant, so I didn't leave the house for a long time. And then the world shut down. So I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'll just stay here. And it served me well. But like when I finally started to go meet people in person, people were like, they were like, oh, like what you see is what you get. And like, yeah, that's about it. Like I don't I don't know how to be anybody other than me. But I don't think I realized that so many other people struggled with that, right? They were just
For sure.
modeling other people because they assume that person is successful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really easy to mask whenever you're trying to deal with like your own problems about yourself and how you feel about yourself and how the world views you and what you think about that. And like growing up gay in South Carolina, I was depressed constantly because I
Sure.
was masking all the time. And when I went to college, I kind of, maybe a little bit before college, maybe in high school, I kind of slowly started removing the mask. And like, I was so terrified that people weren't going to like who I was, even though it was just kind of an adage on the rest of me as a person, right? And I noticed that I wasn't depressed anymore. I lost a lot of anxiety. I felt better. I felt more loved and accepted. And I felt like a better human being, just like by being honest and removing the mask completely. So I don't really want to go back to feeling that way. So I would never put it on again. I'm not supposed to be everybody's flavor the same way you're not supposed to be everybody's flavor.
No. Again, I don't know. Is it social media that got us there? I just taught a masterclass yesterday to my clients called Unbothered. And it was really about this whole concept of like, your energy is so unbothered. Like, you like people and you want to connect with people. But if they don't like you, you're not personally offended, right? Like, you're not like, oh, my feelings are hurt. You're like, cool, I'm not for you. And there's nothing wrong with Lacey because I'm not for you. And there's nothing wrong with that person either. We're just not a match. But we live in a world that's so bothered all the time. Like, that person doesn't like me. And so then I think I'm doing something wrong. And then I think that guy's an asshole.
Right. Right. And what it is it's just you guys aren't meshing, and that's totally okay. It's just like, be respectful and move on, you know?
Yes. I don't know where we lost that. The ability to be like, we're just not a match. Let's move on. And again, there's a lot of layers to that, but we take it so personally when somebody on the internet says something about us, right? Like, I think that's why so many people are afraid to start posting, because what happens if somebody doesn't like me and then they comment, and I'm sure you get it. Like, people say terrible, atrocious things behind a keyboard they would never say in person, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to make
I just tell them to go harder.
Is that all you got, asshole?
Yeah, I'm like, you're not even scratching the surface. Like, I held the flashlight for my dad. Like you don't have anything on anything.
Right. It's so true, though. We spend so much time trying to curate a personality and an energy. And I think that's why so many people struggle, whether it's social media, whether it's business, because it's like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to behave. But I also want to be clear, this doesn't go away. And I have to tell you this story. One time I did a VIP day with a real estate agent here in Kansas City. So I went to this like Reese Nichols, like signature realty office, right? Which is their super high end thing. And it's super bougie. And I'm working with this guy, which I don't get to work with a lot of men. And it was really fun. But he brings in, I guess, whoever's in charge of the office. I don't even know the titles, but the two head people in the office. And I panicked. I was like, oh shit, I don't belong here. I'm not dressed appropriately. I don't know anything about real estate. Like, I had this total like meltdown moment of like, I don't belong here. And I literally called Courtney that afternoon and I was like, talk me off the ledge, talk me off the ledge. And she was like, no, that's actually why real estate agents like you so much, because you just don't give a shit. Like, you're not trying to look a certain way, right? Like, I like that you wear jeans and show up in a hoodie half the time, right? Like, I like that you drop the F-bomb. Like, you're not trying to polish yourself. Because in real estate, that's what we do, right? It's got to be polished and shiny, and we've got to drive nice cars, and we've got to look a certain way so people do business with us. But if that's not who you truly are, even if you're doing well, you're still only scratching the surface of what you're capable of, because you're not willing to be all of you. And so, it was even that talk that I gave in Dallas, like, there was a small part of me that was like, I feel like I should wear jeans just to and I was like, I'm gonna put on slacks because I know what Courtney's gonna wind up dressed like. I knew what Kim was gonna wear because we were all in a group chat together, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll put the slacks on. But to me, I'm like, if I don't ever have to wear a pair of slacks and heels ever again, I would be quite content with that. And I lean into that more and more, but that's what I'm hearing you say, right? Like, the more you are, the more you win, and the less other people can hurt you, right? It only hurts when you believe them.
Right, exactly. And I think humans are so magnetized to personality that if I put out an incorrect magnet and I say that I'm something that I'm not, like, ethically or morally or how I outwardly present myself, I'm then attracting people who are going to cause me discomfort, pain, and depression. Yeah. So I don't want to be friends with those people. Right. I don't want to work with those people. No. I will be nice to those people. I will be polite to those people, but I don't want to attract them.
Yeah. No, and I think that's such an important thing. It's like, yeah, when you show up with a mask on, you attract from that masked place. And then people are like, I don't understand why my business is so hard. I don't understand why all my clients are assholes. I don't understand why these douchebags keep reaching out to me. And it's like, it's kind of what you're putting out, my friend, right? Like, unintentionally trying to look like everybody else. That's the vibe that you're putting out. And you got to, the more you own your stuff, whatever that is for you, right? For you, you're funny, right? And and you can deliver things quickly and pointed, and you're quick-witted, and like, that works for you, right? Like, I struggle to fit shit into 90 seconds because I have a lot of words. So so it's just like, whatever. But if I try to be somebody I'm not, it may or may not get me clients, or it may or may not get me followers, but is that really an aligned partnership in any capacity, which I'm not
Yeah,
even.
exactly. And like, do you want to put yourself out there like that? I mean, I don't want people thinking that I'm some sort of different personality and then we meet and
Right.
it's just a total 180. I mean, that would be so strange. And again, if I put the mask on, I'm just inviting depression because I'm
Yeah.
trying so hard to be something that I'm not.
Right. And I wonder if you got it, Lacey, though, because of, being a gay woman in South Carolina, right? Like some people didn't put their mask on until they were older, right? Like you put your mask on at a really young age. So I imagine you got to a point where you were like, fuck this, right? Some of us don't realize that the world doesn't like us the way that we are until we're adults, right? We don't put our mask on until our 20s. And then it's our, late 30s and early 40s when you're like, can I take this off?
Right.
Can I
I'm
please take this off?
tired.
This is
I
not
don't like it, but I
healthy.
don't know why because I've been wearing it for 40 years.
Yes, yes. I hadn't even really thought about that, but I wonder, if that's why you're just so comfortable in your skin because you put your mask on at such a young age because
Maybe
of your
so.
circumstances versus others who, again, it was when they became adults, started pursuing a career, those types of things, got into the rat race, got onto the treadmill, got into the climbing the ladder, keeping up with the Joneses, their mask came on much later. And so they,
Totally.
it took them a little while to figure out like, oh, this is not at all who I want to be.
Yeah, completely. And I remember being kind of maybe not celebrated, but I remember my parents being totally fine that I was just like a little weirder than everybody else. And I remember them just really not caring about what other people had to say about them either. So, like, I think it just kind of passed down to me. And I was like, man, if people don't like me, that's totally cool. But like,
Yeah.
I just say that finally my age caught up to my personality now that I'm 38.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so fun. And sometimes that's what it takes. They do say, I actually just had a new woman join business therapy today, which I'm super stoked about, but she's turning 40 this year. And they say the average age of an awakening in women is between the ages of 38 and 42. And that's kind of awakening, whatever that means to you. But to me, it's like, it's when we realize that the mask is on, right? Like we're like,
Totally.
oh, I don't like who I've become. I don't know who this is. It usually happens in those ages. And like I said, it seems like for you, it just happened a little bit earlier because life circumstances caused you to deal with shit that others don't, right? So that probably led to that happening for you, which is also probably why you are so comfortable in your own skin, which I think is really beautiful.
100%. I also had a very defined moral compass from a very early age.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in like, the fifth grade and the eighth grade and the 10th grade and college, just sitting there and saying to myself, okay, it would be so easy to do the wrong thing here. But the second that I do that, I will throw a domino in the direction of the adult that I don't want to be. And so I can't allow that first domino to fall because the second you let one fall,
Right.
It's so much easier to let the whole thing fall, right? And go, and all of a sudden you'll wake up and not know who you are. Thankfully, I was very like self-aware when I was younger. And so that's, I think, really what made sure that I didn't end up being something that I didn't want to be just because I was very aware.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like kudos to you and your parents because there are so many of us that don't. And now I work on it every day with my kids. My kids are 5 and 8, and we work on that self-awareness. And even in little stuff, when my kids pick on each other, and my son is older than my daughter, and so he can trick her into doing pretty much anything. And my favorite thing is like, hey, bro, whatever you put out, you get back. Right? Like if you're going to pick on her and you're going to be an ass and you're trying to get her in trouble or you're trying to get her to do something she's not supposed to do, her consequence is going to be this big. Like what's going to come back to you might be a little bit bigger. And he really hates that. Like he is not ready for his mom to coach him at all, but he knows I'm right. And he's like, fuck. But he's an extremely emotionally intelligent 8-year-old because I've been telling him since he was 4, I'm mad at you, mommy. And I'm like, or no, you're making me mad, mommy. And I'm like, I'm not making you mad, bro. Like you're mad. You don't like my behavior, but I am not doing anything to you. You are choosing anger because you don't like this. And so again, it was obnoxious when he was a child, but he gets it now, right? Where like nobody makes you mad. You are mad. You don't like their behavior. You might even be right in that feeling of anger, but nobody made you mad. And like, I'm assuming there was probably something like that happening in your house because otherwise most of us were just like bumbling around through the world like, oh, well, that guy made me mad and that person wasn't nice to me and that person hurt my feelings and they must all be assholes instead of like the introspection of who am I and all of this.
Yeah, I don't know how it really happened actually, but it was very much like an introspective decision of what I was going to be as a person.
Good for you. Well, I quite delight in the person you are for sure. Thank you so much for being here with us, for sharing your story, for just continuing to show up as yourself, because we need more of that in the world. So where can people spend more time with you, follow you, get to know you? Obviously TikTok, but tell everyone to hang out with you.
Totally. So it's the same across all platforms. It's at Lacey, LACEY .compass, and that's on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
But not YouTube, because she doesn't like it there.
Yeah, you can find me there, but why? Why go? It's a weird alley. You don't need to go. You don't need to go there.
Well, Lacey, thank you for being here, and thank you for this great conversation. I appreciate you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Ryan.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If you're walking away with a new perspective, some fresh inspiration, or the push you needed to show up as your uncensored self, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode, leave a review, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, success isn't about following somebody else's rules. It's about owning who you are, deciding what you want, and going after it unapologetically. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and stay uncensored.